dive into tapes.
It spins.
Where will you be when? Right here. Raptors basketball. Nothing but Sportsnet.
You're watching Rogers TV. The opinions expressed in the following programs are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers Cable or Rogers TV.
Hi, I'm David Shearman, host of Politically Speaking. It's a pleasure to have you with us today because my guest is Mayor Ian Boddy of the city of Owen Sound. And Ian, you're standing in the atrium again with a Christmas tree behind you and the farmer's market, and there's no snow.
I think a Christmas tree on this side, and I think a Christmas tree on that side, right about there.
Yeah, that's right, because there's some very big trees there. That's
very
right.
Big trees there.
Very big trees. And if this were at night, if we were shooting this at night or after about 5 o'clock, we'd be watching the Festival of Northern. We could see the Festival of Northern Lights. I can see on my screen. People may not be able to see it entirely. The snowmen that are just over your left shoulder.
And yeah, they look really nice at night. Really nice. Blue lights, really well done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Festival of Northern Lights has done extremely well this year. They had a little bit of problem with vandalism at the beginning, but that seems to have been brought under management, and it's good to see.
Yeah, a lot of creativity goes in there each year to redesign and do their presentations, and it looks pretty good. So hopefully everyone will be able to be out in the next couple of weeks and bring their family and have a look.
Absolutely. Let's hope we get a little bit of snow.
everywhere except on hills and roads.
Well, speaking of hills and roads, one of the things that I was surprised, if I can use that word, to discover is that there are actually 15 hills on our road system here in the city. We don't realize that how hilly this city is, but I think it was the Director of Public Works presentation on snow removal for the strategic the service analysis.
Well, it's interesting.
15 hills.
I got social media and comments last Thursday that we weren't plowing 10th Street, which of course is not true because the plow was just going back and forth and back and forth. But the snow was coming down so fast and so heavy that we were at capacity. And that's why we declare whatever the declaration is, winter storm event or whatever it is.
Yeah,
telling people that we can't keep up and you're going out really at your own risk. But we absolutely were just back and forth on 10th Street, especially. That's the main street to get up and get down. And of course, trying to get to hospitals and, doing a route that is in preparation of an emergency. And they're going full blast. All four sidewalk plows were out going full blast. So it was kind of funny to hear people say that we had quit. We weren't out cleaning the street when we were.
Well, I would point out, as I had to be out during a recent storm, and I've got a truck with 4-wheel drive and I've got snow tires.
Yeah,
I had no trouble navigating, but that's the way I am.
There was a couple of periods there that the snow had come down so hard that it looked like we weren't caught up, and then of course 5 days later it all melts and is gone.
But what I was going to say is that there were people on the 10th Street Hill without snow tires. And you could tell because they were just sitting there and spinning.
Yeah.
And I know I shouldn't point fingers, but you got to live in this country and you really do have to have snow tires.
I think actually if you go to your insurer and ask them, you can get an insurance discount by having snow tires. and that will pay for them over, I don't know how long, but it helps pay for them. So plus you're keeping your family safer, and we are in the snow belt, and we do have 15 hills that have to be cleaned, and it's just safer.
Absolutely. Now, you've seen a lot of those 15 hills over the last decade, because you were reminding me that you've been 10 years as in the mayor's chair.
Well, it's amazing how quickly it's gone, but first elected on council in 2010, so I'm up 14 years, but just completing the 10th year as mayor with 2 more years in this term. And thinking of all the things that we've done and all the things we tried to do, and the vision that we came with to try and rebuild the city, trying to attract development, attract industry, attract industry, et cetera. You know, all the services that we want to pay for, we need money to do it. So we needed to grow and have some development here, and we're starting to see that development, or have for a little while, but it's starting to build, and it's taken longer than, you know, it just doesn't happen in a year or two. And one of the issues we were dealing with right from the start was our taxes were higher than any of our comparable cities. So for an industry or commercial investor, developer, they would look here and look elsewhere, and it might be easier elsewhere. And we've got a lot of those costs down by controlling our tax increases each year without doing major cuts to services. There were some cuts made along the way, but we've tried to control our costs and limit our tax increases so everyone else, and if you look around the neighborhood, everyone else's taxes are going up a lot higher than ours are. And that's always been our strategy. And our plan is to do it slowly and carefully so we don't disrupt services and put things in their ear. And we've been able to do that again this year.
Yeah, because the budget increase was 2.65%, which was staff beating council's recommendation of between 3 and 5.
That's the city's levy portion. Yep. When we combine that with Grey County and with the Board of Education, it comes down to 2.55. A year ago, for 2014, the year that's ending, we're at 2.1, and that was one of the best ever. So over the last 4 to 6 years, we've been lower than everybody else, and that's allowed us to move down in that BMA study into the mid-range that we're competitive. If you look at just a single level bungalow, we're still a little bit higher than we were in 2024. We'll see how that comes down in the next BMA report. But we used to be high in industrial, high in commercial, high in residential per capita. We've brought that down into the mid-range where we want to be. We don't want to be low, because that means we're not providing the services that the community wants. So, you know, it's that balance. Our goal is always to provide the best services that the community wants and that they can afford, and being able to do it at a efficient price point.
And it's always a challenge, because I know that you have, in the past, you've said, well, we want to keep it around 2%. That's been kind of like the around figure.
Well, it depends. You know, if inflation is at 7%, it's not responsible for being at 2% either. You know, that maybe happened in some years, many years ago, and that they would dig into the capital reserve or into infrastructure expenses. And I used to joke about borrowing from the Bank of Asphalt. So you don't want to cut things that it affects future councils to be able to move forward and manage their affairs. So it's a balancing act that I think we've done a great job at.
Mm-hmm. Well, I should also say that I did have a look at the budget presentation, and the slide deck is available, and it was different this year because it was presented in a different manner, but it was still very clear. It wasn't hard to understand. Sometimes municipal finances, you need to be a CPA to read what a CPA has written, but not in this case.
Well, and I think a lot of them you can go through. You know, different municipalities will have a 600-page budget, and there you go, try and pull out a line. What we try and do is, assuming that we did something last year that was okay, if it was questionable and was to be reviewed, we reviewed it. And otherwise, we looked at new spending differences, changes, tried to look at, what's affecting that change. But boy, when staff presents something that's starting off at 2.6, right from the start, we spent all day and got to the same place. So, we questioned some things, took a few kicks at a few cans, and ended up pretty well at the same place. So.
Now, how does the service analysis play into the both the capital and the operating budget?
So this will be the second time in my 10 years that we've been through a service review, and this time we're going a lot more in depth. And that's credit to our city manager, Tim Simmons, that does things strategically and carefully and wants to look at it, not making knee-jerk reactions or making decisions off the cuff. So there were 49 things identified in the service review to go through. This is really our first year being active. They had hoped to get through 35 reports this year, and we got through 31, so that's pretty good. Different departments, well, pretty well the whole municipality is looking at their departments and different things. And the idea isn't to cut people first and do more by fewer people. It's trying to find efficiencies. If somebody's sitting at a desk and they're spending a couple of hours doing something that is minor in nature, and then they don't have enough time to do something major, then that's a problem. So we want to find how to make those more efficient for everybody, how we hire, how we assign things. Can we use a software or use something on computer that makes it easier for council or for staff, to be able to deal with? And I think one of them you're going to ask me about in a few minutes. So, at the end of that first year, having dealt with 31 reports, some of them will be interim reports that will come back with more details, just saying what they're looking at, maybe changing where they thought they're going to look. Tim's report the other day was somewhere in the neighborhood of $950,000 savings so far, and that'll be direct savings and some indirect savings. And the goal is $2 million if we can get there in the next year or so.
Well, I thought Tim's comment, we're looking for a better way to do things, is probably a good summary statement of what he was trying to do and what council is trying to do. The other thing I think that what has happened in the last 20 or 30 years is people have said, well, we got too many people for and not enough work. Well, all what ends up is you got a lot of work to do and not enough people to do it. And so you're basically shooting yourself in the foot when you start looking at your human resources first.
Yeah. Making a cut to reach a number and then finding out you can't do the job doesn't really do it. So let's find a way to do the job better, more efficiently. And that's the goal with this. And it helps us be more competitive with other municipalities. Mm-hmm. I think Travis Dodd pointed out the other day that Coldberg, everyone's saying you need to look at this community, that community, what they're doing with their taxes. They're looking at us, and like us, they're adding a 1% dedicated tax increase to their capital spending or infrastructure spending. And we've been doing that for a few years. Other municipalities are looking in and Owen Sound of what we're doing and the innovative things we're doing and copying us. And it's nice to see. Sometimes people in our community don't necessarily see what others are doing, or maybe don't track it enough, or don't always know exactly what to look for in those comparisons. And it's certainly rewarding when others are looking at us and seeing what we're doing.
I think the other thing is with 444 municipalities across Ontario of varying sizes and service needs, it's really hard to find apples to apples comparators.
Yeah, the one that comes up, Dave, is often policing, and Strathroy will be used, or maybe even Orangeville. Similar in size, yes. But at Orangeville, if you drive past there at 6 to 7 o'clock in the morning, it's emptying out. People are going into the GTA to work. They're coming home at 4 to 7. They're might be around the arenas and doing things till 10. They're going to bed and they're starting the next day over. Strathroy is very similar. The population is very similar, but it empties out into London during the day and then back at night. It isn't a county center, so it doesn't direct it. Orangeville will be, Strathroy won't be. It doesn't have the same services. It doesn't have the same issues. Of course, us being the Center for Graham Bruce, we figure we've got a population of about 45,000, 42, 45,000, somewhere in there per day during the day coming in, going to work, using the streets, using the facilities, et cetera. So, we're coming in, those communities are going out, and so they're hard to compare to.
And in addition, we got a regional hospital. We are not just the county seat, but our regional service center.
Yeah.
The list goes on and on. Now, many of these places are not.
Yeah.
And then, hey, then there's a whole question of OPP versus municipal police forces. And that's really a hard thing to compare because OPP doesn't, well, we did that a few years ago here in the city. And we went.
We looked at that, and of course, OPP just got increases, towns that are OPPing. Then the province steps in and offers them $77 million to help them cope. But through arbitration, there is a replication of contracts and things. The 41, I think, municipalities across Ontario that have municipal service don't get those subsidies or haven't as of yet. And we're all screaming that it's not fair because our taxpayers are carrying the cost of our policing. And we're not getting subsidized by the province like OPP centers are. And that just does not make sense. I think all of us have been writing letters. We sent a letter last week, maybe earlier this week, from the mayor of West Grey, Hanover, and myself signing it. Mayor Bradley and Sarnia kicked it off with letters to everybody. And I know Luke over in Saugeen Shores sent his letter a week or so ago as well, saying this isn't fair. We're small towns. We're carrying the cost. We should be treated the same way as OPP policed municipalities. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting thing to watch. And hey, with the potential of an election, who knows what the government's going to pull out of its hat?
Well, certainly Collingwood has OPP costing, and they've got about the same population. Their police costs end up being about $3 million less than ours, that's a big whack. I was going to say Midland. Aurelia has OPP costing, so those are actual urban services. But for the majority of OPP, it's more on-road rural service that the officers, and I don't mean any disrespect to the OPP officers, but they wouldn't be doing as many counts dealing with people as often as we would be within the city of Owen Sound or other centers. So, it's a different type of policing. And our police officers, I think, have got a bigger workload, to be fair.
Yes. Now, I want to go back to something that came up, and I think it was it's in one of the meetings that has happened recently, and that is proposed renovations of the fire hall. And that's an interesting one because as the chief pointed out, and it could have been operations, but it might also have been service analysis. That building's 50 years old.
Yes.
50 years old. It needs work, and not just a few Band-Aids and plaster.
Well, as we know, as we've tried to manage our costs over the years, we let City Hall deteriorate to the point that we were being shut down because the boiler didn't work. It needed repairs. So the fire hall is now 50 years old and needs some upgrades. Where it used to be only males, of course, we now have 2 females that are working there, and that's probably going to continue to change. So we need some changes within the building. Need some, training things. There's more training. There's more demands. There's different things going on there. So they did a study and came back with a report of what the building could be. not what it will be, but what it could be. And we put that into the capital budget, unfunded long-term, so we can start to look at what do we really need and what will that cost to get there. If we needed to add an office, if we're just replacing windows, insulating, roof, those things that have to happen. So long way off, but we're starting to look at that because we have to look at it.
Which is the advantage of a 5-year capital plan.
Yes.
You know,
and there'll be things that will be on that 5-year capital plan that are even outside the 5 years that aren't funded, but recognizing they're going to have to come at some point.
Mm.
The art gallery did the same thing. They went out and got a study of what it could look like. We know we have to do some renovations and some changes there, and some expansion for the storage of art that's safe and et cetera. The plan came back at $17 million. It's a pie in the sky plan, not the thing we're working towards, but you have to start somewhere. So again, they will go out and look at their ability to raise funds, then figure out what that is, and then figure out what they can build from within that. So, there's rumors out there that we've approved a $17 million art gallery. We haven't. That was just a sort of that dream plan to start somewhere. What could it look like? And that's what the report was. So not where we're going, not funded. Long way to go. I told Phil and I told the art gallery, it's the same thing. Don't think big, think achievable. And that's pretty important to be able to do in a community our size.
Sure. I also noticed that in the budget there was a part-time position for the Tom for a fundraiser, which I think
we had a full-time position at the art gallery that retired. Mm-hmm. So they looked at how can we maneuver or take things off of that desk and put it in another desk and move it around with the employees we have. So we're looking at hiring a part-time person on a contract to be able to fundraise and go after different monies that could come in to support the operations and potential capital of the gallery, and see if that works. If they can reach some goals that are appropriate, then it makes sense. And so this is a test, and by doing it by contract, we keep it a test.
Sure. And who knows where we will be in a year. There may be some opportunities that occur. Many organizations have part-time or full-time people who do nothing but look for grants.
Yeah.
And there are people who specialize in fundraising.
Well, and you got to have that in your desk to go looking. A few years ago, we hired a facility booking coordinator that would also sell arena board advertising. Now that the Harry Lumley Bayshore Community Center is the attack to that. But for the Julie MacArthur Recreation Center, different facilities that we have, are there places that we could be raising money? And that was looked at by that person. We ended up shuffling the jobs around, but that was certainly looked at and part of that job plan at that point. So this isn't the first time we've done it. I think we were successful last time, but moved things around once we got it going, that they didn't necessarily have to sit in that position. But it's staff here within City Hall are always looking, whether it be Laura in operations and engineering will always be looking for grants. Michelle Palmer's always looking for grants. We're always looking for grants to apply to a program, and sometimes applying for them, not sure that we'd even qualify them, but send out an application anyway. And sometimes you get those from the provincial and federal government, even though you're only catching a corner of what the description was, but you need to be able to do that type of thing.
Yeah, that's a very good point, because I know that the police chief has also found that to be true. And he has leveraged significant grants to improve the services in the Owen Sound Police Services.
Yeah, constantly they're looking for grants and funding to be able to run programs that we couldn't run otherwise over at the police station.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I also happen to know that, believe it or not, there are certificate university level courses and degrees in fundraising and that kind of it is actually a very skilled profession. Very skilled. Yeah.
It doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll tell you about one of my friends who happens to be in that position in another area, and the level of skill that they bring to the table is absolutely phenomenal. It's remarkable, but that's a whole other conversation, Ian.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's swing back to where we started, a few minutes ago, that you've had what, you'll be up, this is your 10 years as mayor, 14 in council. What is the biggest change that you have seen in the last 14 years or the last 10?
Well, you remember that very first year we started off with frozen pipes for weeks. People went without water, and then we went to arsons on August of that 2015, and just trying to make ends meet to start off with. I've really got to go back and go through my annual statements, year-end statements each year, and I haven't done that to look at the different things. But I think now we're building more, instead of looking back and trying to do some of the things that hadn't been done before that were on the list and ticking them off. Now with Vision 2050, for example, and our service review, now we're trying to set the table and look forward for the city. How do we keep this going? How do we build more homes? How do we attract more jobs that will benefit the community for years to come? So when I first went on council, I kept saying, can we do this? And it was, no, we don't have any money. And, we're sort of bound by decisions, sort of the capital spending that had been made before. My goal is to be able to have future councils have the financial freedom and the ability to move forward and look at things going forward. And certainly with the service review, with the Vision 2050, to be able to pull parts out of that strategic plan that makes sense to them that they want to do during that term after term, and of course make changes to that strategic plan going forward as times change, and build the city and make it look the way we want it to look. Change will be coming. It's trying to be prepared for it and having a mindset that you're ready for it and able to absorb that change.
Well, you and I have gone back and forth on when are we going to see dirt moving up across from the hospital, and dirt has moved.
Yes.
So
certainly,
that's a sign that things are happening.
There's been some work to start to prepare the land at Telfer Creek, which is same side as the hospital, just past it, heading east. Flatto is across the street from the hospital or from the public school, and they've started to do things, and we'll start more in January. I know we've got applications for building permits for some place else that has come through this week, but I don't know if I can say it yet. There's a building going up 16th Avenue. If you think about that Sun Life corner next to that, a 2-story building. There's buildings going up at Heritage Grove, and we expect other things to happen there in the next year or so. So, we kind of got whacked by interest rates coming out of COVID for a couple of years. Those interest rates have come down. We're starting to see the developers moving ahead. Meanwhile, they've been doing their blueprints. They've decided where the roads are going to go. They've decided they've got the engineering for the water and their infrastructure. I've probably said it on here before with Flatto and Red Hawk side by side across from the hospital. They've worked together on their engineering to figure out where the roads are going to line up and how the water systems are going to work. So they're both getting really close, and Flatto's already started to do some stuff. So I think we're going to see quite a bit of movement in 2025.
Well, we'll come back to that for sure, but we're going to take a quick break right now, Ian, and because there are messages that people want to get to. So we'll be back in a few minutes, friends. I'm David Shearman. This is Politically Speaking. Stay with us.
This program is brought to you by Rogers Xfinity, connecting you to more of what you love. Visit Rogers.com for more details. This is Rogers TV.
For me, the end was just the beginning. I felt I must come. If I did not come at once, it would be too late. And these places that are watered with the best blood of Canada might only be names and memories. I see it in the soldiers, the grief I know so intimately. And I will not abandon these men to it. The isolation wears on me. Slowly, the silence takes over, as if my heart has given out of air. I cannot talk. I can only paint.
For more than 2 years, Mary Ryder Hamilton painted the battlefields of the First World War, creating an unforgettable visual record of service and sacrifices at immense personal cost.
You're watching an interesting local show on Rogers TV and you want to know more. That's when you head to rogerstv.com. Our website provides more information about our programs, our hosts, our schedule, and about how you too can get involved with Rogers TV. Visit us online at rogerstv.com.
Hi, and welcome back to Politically Speaking. I'm David Shearman. My guest is Mayor Ian Boddy of the city of Owen Sound, and we've been talking about just about everything under the sun and some things that are under the street. So, Ian, good to see you as always. I wondered, we talked. Literally speaking of under the street, there is a public meeting coming up for the Stormwater Management Master Plan. And I had to chuckle because the initials are SWMMP, which you could pronounce swamp.
It depends who taught you how to spell, but yes.
I know, but hey, it's a cheap joke, all right?
It's trying to collect data on things. And of course, using electronics and modern opportunities, computer opportunities to be able to collect data and information from people and measure where we've got maybe issues that, without having somebody driving around in a truck around the streets at the right moment to see what's going on. So this is a great way to collect information and to plan out what we need to do over the next 25 years.
Well, I was quite interested to see what the consultants have done and the city have done together. If you go to the city's webpage for the swamp, the Stormwater Management Master Plan, there is a map, and you can find where your particular area is, and you can put a pin in, a metaphorical pin, computer-generated pin, and you can make a comment about the location, and you can even upload a picture if you want. And I'm impressed by that for two reasons. I think that's only been out about 24 hours from the time we've been looking at. There are 14 pins. So in terms of citizen engagement, I'm going, well, this is good. But what is also interesting is that you are using firsthand knowledge. Like you said, you can have someone from works driving around in a pickup truck. But here you've got people saying, hey, I got a problem in front of my house. That's good. But that's a good use of technology. And it's a good use. It's first person and using citizen expertise.
Yeah, it's great for that. And we've got a community that cares. And a lot of people are paying attention. Certainly with even Vision 2050, there was something like 1,000 the neighborhood of 1,000 surveys that were submitted. So public is interested, they're engaged. This is another way and a specific thing that they can help their community, and it's great to be able to do that.
And it's a lot more convenient than having to attend a public meeting.
Probably easier too.
Yes, yes. Speaking of Vision 2050, that's since we talked last, before we talked last, there were the public meetings and so on. Where is the project now? What track where are we in terms of moving towards some results reporting?
Well, we did the surveys in the spring. There's a report on those surveys at owensound.ca. It's pretty easy to find in to read that. Then there is engagement sessions. I think 7 in total, maybe 8 in November, and we'll have a report coming back, and the final report will be coming in March. So it's being put together as we speak.
Right. Right. So it's basically waiting until March. I presume there'll be a presentation at a council meeting or something.
Yes, I think that's the idea. There'll probably be little interim reports coming to a committee before that, but I think the idea is to have it ready to go to council by March if we can.
Oh, good. Good. And then this will be fed into the larger strategic plan. Is that right?
Well, back in, I'm going to say 2016, we did the first strategic plan, and I think it was 2020. Our vision is clear, I think is what we called it. And then about 2021, we renewed that strategic plan with an update that had changed the pillars around and had specific targets and timelines that went with that, that really gave us a good framework to work on. So this is now looking out over the next number of years.
Mm-hmm. And 2050 is the big vision, or the big.
Yeah, to try and cover us over a number of years.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'll be not trying to be rude, but I suspect you and I will both still be residents of the city of Owen Sound, but perhaps exercising our property rights in Greenwood.
Well, and is the way Tim works, and hopefully city managers that come after each council, well, you've got a 4-year term. What do you want to accomplish in that 4-year term? It's not just coming in and making decisions as they come in front of you with no long-term vision. You know, that's what we've tried to do for 10 years, is to give that long-term vision and try and set it up so that future councils can succeed and do well. So they'll be able to pick out some things out of it that they want to kick off in the 4 years and figure out a way of, a plan of how they're going to do that.
And that's a different way of thinking.
Yes.
And
this term we thought about that Vision 2050 and how we're going to do it. We thought about the service review spread out over the term and how we're going to do it. The waste management plan came along. This year we just signed a 10-year contract with the ATTAC for the Harry Lumley Bayshore Community Center. It includes them putting in some capital that we needed faster than we thought we were going to do it, the repairs we're going to do down there. We've just signed a 20-year agreement with the Owen Sound Grey Bruce YMCA. So 20 years for managing the Julie MacArthur building and working together with them, and the services that they provide for the community, the recreation, etc. These are long-term goals that we wanted to solidify for years to come. So again, not looking back, looking forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's good to see that kind of, dare I use the word, stability?
Stability and vision, I think.
Yeah, they go hand in hand.
I think they do. That's why I'm here, I guess.
Well, there's another thing that was mentioned at the most recent council meeting. Chief Eagleson is on the physician recruitment committee, and this has kind of come up through physician recruitment, I think. And that is another partnership between the county and ROMP, which is the Rural Ontario Medical Medicine Program, I believe, Bright Shores, and the Y, and the city is also a partner to provide space for medical students.
So doctor recruitment is a tough thing. We don't get grants because we've got X number of doctors per a population of 20,000, but that's not how they should be measuring. We can't get this. We can't get the province to review this. To be polite, we've got something like 60,000 patients that are coming to the family health team. We've got a whole region that's coming to our regional specialized hospital at Bright Shores here in Owen Sound, with the different satellite hospitals doing different things throughout the area. So we need to think and work regionally to attract doctors. Other municipalities are throwing hundreds of thousands of dollars at doctors to come for a number of years, and some of them are there for that number of years and they move on. We can't afford to do that. So we're working together to get students to come to provide housing, nice housing, to allow them to come and get experience at the hospital and try and get them to come back after to sell the hospital, to sell the opportunities professionally for them at the Bright Shores or at the family health team. And then, of course, the lifestyle that's here. So Phil's great at that. We wanted to have her hand in there from the city's point of view so that we can be in communications with them and have that liaison person. And Phil's the guy that's great at meeting with them. So we're really happy about, again, thinking collaboratively. That's a word we haven't mentioned today, but you know, the other part of that vision, the other part of things we've been doing for 10 years is building relationships with our neighbors to try and find ways to find savings. And this is another one of them that you're going to ask me questions about, a couple of others, I think, coming up. But
oh yes. I mean, one of the things I have learned probably more recently, as I know you have, is you're only as strong as your partners.
Yeah. Yeah, we can't do it alone. And,
no.
You know, this year, just one example after many years of Owen Sound carrying the cost, which is regional, of the court security, with thanks to all of our fellow mayors and deputy mayors up at Grey County, we were able to get them to take on that cost. That's about $240,000 coming off the taxpayers of Owen Sound directly. And it is a regional service, so they saw that. And that's, you know, with Kim Wingrove, CAO, with the wardens that we've had from Selwyn to Brian Milne to, you know, going forward with Andrea, we've got an attitude up there about how can we work collaboratively, how can we work regionally, what things should we be all, you know, we're all doing the same thing that we could do better at the county than us individually in the lower tier, and trying to work on those things. And it's great to go to work up there.
Well, I guess the collaboration with West Grey Police is another example of partnership, isn't it?
Yeah, it's one we're trying. Yeah.
And that will evolve over the next few years, I'm sure.
Oh, I hope not a few years. Again, maybe I'm being impatient. I think I can do everything at once, but we're hoping that we'll have something together this term. Either we will or we won't. But we don't want to drag this out for a couple of years. We want to have some hard talks, figure out what we can do quickly, and be able to, you know, it might take a little bit longer to move it forward, but we want to have some decisions made in the next year to two on that.
Okay. That's actually what that does, is that says to me, hey, you and I can have conversations over the next 2 years about this, and you can give updates, which is
hopefully, yes.
You're feeding me topics for conversation, Ian.
Good.
Well, another example of collaboration, of course, is the relationship with Georgian Bluffs around building inspectors, and that's working together.
Well, and we did that as a test for a number of months, and it worked. So we're continuing that. So our building inspectors here, I'm going to go back to Brian Mulroney days and Canada Free Trade and going to economics. And they talked about having two factories, and one factory is big and it's operating at 80%, the 20% capacity. They could absorb what's going on in another factory and how you put them together. It's the same concept that if we've got some free time capacity for people here, that we could offer that service to Georgian Bluffs or to any of our neighbors, then why wouldn't we? And they pay a little bit. It'll probably be cheaper for them than hiring a couple of staff members that aren't at 100% capacity. We share that capacity to get to 100%, share the costs, and it works well for everybody. So I think we're doing fire inspections out there and have been for a while. Building inspections, they participated with the yard and compost site. I think Meaford's participated in that. There's about 5 of us that are doing the hazardous waste day that all come together and do that together. So I know I'm missing one other that we're working together with our neighbors on, and trying to find ways that it makes sense for both of us that we're working together. Probably that's a difference. 10 years ago, I wanted to amalgamate. Now I realize that's politically really challenging. But boy, if I can find ways that we are finding those efficiencies by working together in different departments and different services that we provide, then it gets us there without having amalgamations and all those problems that go along with it.
Yeah, and I mean, our fire departments work on mutual aid, which is basically a regional partnership.
Huge one. Grey County, all the fire radios and antennas are on the same frequency now. So if you have a fire that there's firemen coming in from different places, they all can hear each other and communicate with each other. And if somebody's trapped in a building there, they can communicate without their radio being jammed by somebody else's. It's a safety thing. There is a perfect example from a couple of years ago how Grey County took the lead and pulled all of that together as a regional service.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, let me switch it up a little bit to ask you and put your county councilor hat on. Budget at county council was talked about in the last week or so. Where is the county budget at? I mean, I've heard positive comments, but are you happy with the direction that's taken?
Yeah, that was all day Friday. It was 3 point something. Maybe it was 3. I can't remember. It was all these numbers start coming in, and this time of the year we go through a lot of budgets, a lot of meetings, and I get overloaded. But we were happy with where we got to up at the county and the services that we're providing there.
Yeah, it's sometimes difficult to know who's on first, what's on second, but to use the old Abbott and Costello joke, but it is a lot of work, and it is a lot of work for you as politicians to keep it straight.
Well, and so we did budget here Monday, we did capital budget Tuesday, did service review Wednesday, did Grey County Thursday, did county budget all day Friday. A lot of reading at night, a lot of preparing. Like, you don't just walk into those meetings, a lot of preparing. Jumping to this past Monday where I did my year-end review, which was, I got it down to about 6 pages from where it started. And you don't think about it, but I probably got 10 hours invested in that Saturday and Sunday, putting that all together, grabbing the information in and editing it down and putting it in some kind of order that made sense. And others can maybe do it faster. I don't know, but we all put in the time to try and be prepared and organized, but on some of the budget stuff, you make the decision, you move on to the meeting the next day, and then you move on to the meeting the next day. And
Well, I think it's worth mentioning that the city operations budget alone was 384 pages.
yeah,
That's massive. I mean, these documents that you are expected to digest on it's unbelievable.
Dave, sometimes I get impatient sitting at a council table, but I can look at those now and I know what to look at because I've looked at them. It took me 4 to 6 years to understand what I was doing in a budget. And so when you've got new counselors that are coming in and they're there for 2 years to 6 years, we're all still on a learning curve. And frankly, I think we've got a really good council that's looking at things and learning. And sometimes I'm a grumpy bear and I shouldn't be, but you don't figure out, you don't read that many pages, or you don't look at that much detail and pull things out overnight. And clearly, if you watch how I sit in a meeting or how Councillor Scott Gregg sits in a meeting, he's a lot more analytical and a lot more on top of the numbers and goes through things and sees things numbers-wise a lot faster than I do. I'm a lawyer, so I'm a word guy, not a numbers guy. Scott's really a detailed number guy, and Travis is too in the financial world. They pick out stuff and see things more easily than I do, but we all bring something different to the table. But yes, that's, those are the types of pages, the number of pages that you have to go through to be a good counselor.
And it's not as if the staff is overwhelming you. It is complicated stuff. Municipal finances are complicated matters.
Yeah, I think Kate does a really good job of presenting it so that everyone can understand it. And this year she explained why she does it this way and what the difference is between this and a financial statement and why we do our budgets this way. And I thought she did a great job of presenting it for everybody to understand.
One of the things I have found over the years is that municipal finance, government finances, are not like your household budget. They're different. Like at the end of the day, we don't have the advanced financial tools, for example, that a province or a federal government has. There are specialists in those areas.
Yeah, but those guys get to deficit budget. They don't allow us to deficit budget. So, we've got to have a reserve that if we over budget or under budget, if we under budget, we don't spend everything, then we put it into a reserve to balance out that next year. And if we come in a little over budget, then we've got that reserve. And of course, the goal isn't to always come in over budget. People are upset if if you overspent. What you want to do, the goal is always to come close to that budget. Whatever that budget line is, sometimes you're a little bit high, sometimes you're a little bit low, but you want to come close to it. It's not always a goal of not losing money each year like you might in a business, for example. We don't have the same amortizations, write-offs, tax deductions. But if we've got money to do a project and it goes over a year into the next fiscal year, then we've got to show it on our records that money's there held in reserve. So it is complicated accounting for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. One of the things I recall from one of Kate's presentations is she showed this fall, she showed 6 different methods of accounting.
Yeah.
And she said, and then this is what I do, or what I do. This is the way I look at manage the books. And I thought that is the kind of information that we all should know.
Yeah. And why?
Exactly. Yeah. Yes. Yes. It was a primer in municipal finance.
Wayne Ritchie used to talk about Mrs. Smith up in 7th. East or west doesn't matter. 7th Avenue, 7th Street. It's the fictional common person that what is it that she wants? She wants her taxes to be reasonable. She wants garbage picked up. She wants her street plowed. She wants her sidewalk plowed. She wants her neighbors to be healthy. She wants her kids to be able to afford a house and live in town. You know, if you think back to Mrs. Smith up in 7th as your guiding light and you're making decisions, you'll always be okay. And, you know, what is it that they want? And, you know, we'll get complicated ideas from people that they want this and they want that, but it all breaks down to me representing Mrs. Smith. You know, there's two different theories, of course, that we're either the spokesperson for our citizens or we're the trustee for our citizens. And with the detail and how complex it is, we have to be trustees more than spokespeople because we tend to know it all. And trying to be the spokesperson is very difficult because you may only hear from a few people and they're the loudest ones, where it's Mrs. Smith on 7th. That's the one you got to think about. And there's a lot of them out there that, you know, that those are the ones you're making the decisions for.
One of the interesting differentiations I've heard in looking at the role of an elected official is that there are actually two functions. The first is the legislative function, which you do when you meet as council. But there's also what could be called the case manager function, which is when you receive the concerns of citizens and you direct them. You can't fix them because it's not your job to fix the potholes. You don't fix potholes personally, do you?
I try not to.
Try not to. But you can call the head of engineering and works and say, hey, there's a pothole. Or you can refer someone to report a concern.
Bingo.
So there's lots of but that's what's called the case manager function. And I think that you're doing both, and it's got to be recognized that it's both.
Yeah, I try and pass it off to the right person who can answer the right question versus trying to get them to inform me so I can inform the person. And that's maybe another change over 14 years where I maybe tried to be the intermediary, and now I try and get out of the way and let the expert answer the question.
It's a lot easier too to do that when you're simply forwarding an email.
Well, that's the beauty of our open house that we tried this year. You know, it's hard to answer those questions when they come into a council meeting and you've got an agenda in front of you. But with that community open house that we had people, they could come and talk to the different departments. They wrote down the ideas, they wrote down the questions, they answered it, you got a face, and it really worked well. And we look forward to doing that again in 2025.
Well, we will just have to wait and see because it's a really good, you know, it was a really good experience I'm hearing, and we'll see what happens. Believe it or not, Ian, we're just about out of time, so I wanted to wish you Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and to look forward to seeing you in January, I guess. I haven't seen the schedule for 2025 yet, but I'm sure you're on the list.
On behalf of council and everybody here at City Hall working for the city, we wish all of our residents happy holidays. You know, no matter what your heritage is, what your background is, your religion, we hope everyone has good holidays. From the way I was raised, Merry Christmas to everybody and Happy New Year's. We send that out to everybody, all of our neighbors across Grey and Bruce. So peace to everyone.
Thank you, Ian. And thank you, friends, for being a part of Politically Speaking. I'm David Shearman. We'll see you in 2025.
Connect with us by visiting our website or email us at comments@rogerstv.com.
back-to-back Stanley Cup victories.
Greatness.
And a new legacy begins.
Absolutely amazing.
It has happened in Vegas.
Is not a destination.
And lightning has struck twice.
It is a continuous journey that never ends.
These are the moments you dream of.
Stanley Cup champions.
You're watching